Picking up where we left off on Friday. Okay, we're solving rational equations. First things first, I see a couple things. The denominators need to be factored, and we don't subtract, we add the opposite. So first things first is I would take this and apply it to the 5. So, and I'm going to factor each of these. So n plus 1 plus negative 5 over 4 times n minus 1 equals 3n over 2 times n plus 1. All right. What's the common denominator? N plus 1, n minus 1, and 12. What can 3, 4, and 2 all go into? 12. Okay, so we need a 12, we need an n plus 1, and we need an n minus 1. Now, are you okay for me not to write it all the way to every single one? Yes? Okay. So when I take this to this, what cancels? The n plus 1 cancels. And you can simplify the 3 and the 12. The 12 is going to become a 4. So I have a 4, I have an n minus 1, and I have a 7n. Okay. On the second one, let's see, the n minus 1s cancel, and then the 4 and the 12 can simplify to what? So I've got a negative 5, I've got a 3, and then I've also got a n plus 1. So far, so good. Okay, on this one, the n plus 1s will cancel, and the 12 and the 2 can simplify to 6. So I've got a 6, I've got a 3n, and I've also got a n minus 1. The n plus 1 canceled, but I still got an n minus 1. Okay, so my question is how do I multiply 3 things together at once? You got to do 2 of them together first, and then multiply it with the third. So, and it doesn't matter. Like some people I notice are starting to distribute. Now, am I going to distribute 4 to all? No, you would just distribute the 4 to the first one. So I'm going to do it that way just to show you it can be done. Some of you have made 4 and 7 in, put the monomials together and made 28 in, and then distributed the 28 into everything. Either way is fine. So 4n minus 4 times 7n. I'm going to make 15 times n plus 1. And I'm going to make 18n times n minus 1. Okay, when I distribute, that's going to make 28n squared minus 28n minus 15n minus 15 equals 18n squared minus 18n. Everybody good? All right, moving along. Combine like terms. 28n squared minus 43n minus 15. And then I'm going to take both of these. I've got to set it equal to 0. Is this quadratic? Is this linear? How do you know it's quadratic? It's got a square term. So minus 18n squared, and this will be a plus 18n equals 0. So altogether, I've got 10n squared minus, help me out, 25n minus 15 equals 0. Okay? How do you want to solve? Oh, goodness. All right. I'm going to complete the square. Okay, I'm going to complete the square. And I'm only going to do that because I feel like I need to review that. I want to make sure that everybody knows how to do that. I feel like those, how many prefer the formula? So I've got, a handful, and I feel very confident that you remember the formula. Okay, I feel very confident with that. But those that prefer completed square, I don't want you to forget that. So first things first, to complete the square, you must divide everything by 10. You have to have a coefficient of 1. Okay, so minus 5 halves in minus 3 halves. Does that make sense? You got to have a coefficient of 1. So n squared minus 5 halves n plus something equals 3 halves plus something. So far, so good. So how do we get this magic number? Divide this by 2, so that's going to be 5 over 4, and square it, so that's going to be 25 over 16. Okay, and then how do I get this magic number? You either divide the middle number by half, not divide by half, but divide it by 2, or take the square root of 25 over 16, which that's what I normally do, because the square root of 25 is 5, square root of 16 is 4. And what's 3 halves plus 25? 49 over 16? Please check me. Check, check. I got to tell y'all a story in a minute. All right, so then I'm going to take the square root on both sides. What happens here? Cancel. And you get n minus 5/4 equals plus or minus 7 over 4. And you move this over, and n is equal to 5 over 4 plus or minus 7 over 4. My question is this one we can keep going? Yes. Yeah, because you can add fractions and subtract fractions. So 5 plus 7 is 12 over 4, which would be 3. 5 minus 7 is negative 2. And negative 2 over 4 is negative 1/2. So those are your two answers. My question, are those okay answers to have? What would make them extraneous? What can n not be? Negative 1 or a positive 1. So these are two good answers to have. Okay, and this one, it was doable by the formula. It was doable by factoring. You could have taken a GCF out first and factored it. It would have worked. Okay, either way you go. Any questions? All right, so we're just going to try a couple more. So I want you to try this. Make sure you're good with it. So long. Any questions on how I know that the common denominator is y times quantity of y plus 2? I mean, excuse me, 6 times quantity of y plus 2. All right, so when I times it to the first fraction, what happens to the y's plus 2? So what am I left with, Jordan? 30. 6 times 5. Okay. When I times it to the second one, what cancels? Nothing. So guess what you got? You got a 2, you got a 6, and you got a y plus 2. Can I go ahead and put two of them together? Let's make 12 and y plus 2. Does that make sense? How many? That's where you went wrong. Okay. Does that make sense? You still have all three of them because none of them cancel. And then over here, what cancels? The 6's, so you're left with a 17 and a y plus 2. My question now, is this linear or is this quadratic? Linear. So we're just going to solve it. 12y plus 24 equals 17y plus 34. I'm going to combine. So 12y plus 54 is equal to 17y plus 34. I'm going to move the 12y's over. And I've got 54 equals 5y plus 34. Everybody with me? I don't want to go too fast, so tell me to slow down if I need to slow down. From there, I'm going to move this over and subtract 34, so 20 is equal to 5y, so y would be equal to 4. Is 4 an okay answer? Yes. What could y not be? Negative 2. Very good. All right, so I want you to try this one. 8 total. So we got this one and one more. I just want to make sure you're good before I give you your homework, because I'm going to tell you right now, I mean, your homework is a little bit of a step up. It's all the same, but the answers don't come out as pretty. Does that make sense? And I will also tell you your homework comes straight from the state of Virginia. So would you put a lot of stock into that homework as far as your SOL is concerned? So we need to make sure that we, look at those problems and tackle those problems. Second block said, oh my gosh, these are gross, these are yucky. And I said, well, I sure would rather tackle them in class while we're together than to not look at them and get them on the SOL. So, no, we're not learning a new lesson today. Okay. Really quickly, two things should be happening before you multiply by a common denominator. What two things should be happening? You need to factor this. What is that? What kind of factoring? Difference of two squares. Okay, z plus 1 times quantity of z minus 1. And then, what else? The subtraction. Yeah, you got to fix the subtraction. I do that first thing so you don't forget about it. All right, any questions on adding the opposite and factoring the denominators? So my common denominator is the quantity of z minus 1 times quantity of z plus 1. So when I times it over here, the z plus 1's cancel. What am I left with? 2 and z minus 1. So far, so good. When I times it here, the z minus 1's cancel. What am I left with? Negative 1 and z plus 1. What cancels here? Everything cancels, right? Don't the z minus 1's cancel and the z plus 1's? So what are you left with? Negative 2. Okay, so then I'm going to solve. So 2 times z is 2z minus 2 minus 1z minus 1 equals negative 2. So z minus 3 equals negative 2. So when I add 3, I get z equals 1. Don't just get an answer and say 1. It's my answer, 1. You better check it. And when you plug in 1, you get a 0 in a denominator, which is undefined, and that cannot happen. So your answer is no solution, okay, or an empty set. Your set of answers is empty. Okay, you can write no solution. I do both so that you're comfortable with both. Okay, any questions about empty set or no solution? You might even see this. Like you might see choice A is 1 in a set, and then you might see a choice like this. What does that mean? That means no solution. That means your set is what? Empty. It's an empty set. There's no solution in there. Does that make sense? And so that would be the one you would want to choose. I have seen that on an Algebra 2 test before. Okay? All right, last one. Okay, so first thing I did is I factored. What do we come out with as our answer? 7 over 3. How many got 7 over 3? Good. Very nice. So our common denominator is p plus 4 times quantity of p minus 2. So when I multiply it over here, the p minus 2's cancel, and I'm left with p plus 4. Do I need the 1? No, because you're just timesing it. Both of them cancel here, and you're left with 2p plus 1. And then the p plus 4's cancel, so you're left with 2 times p minus 2. Everybody good? So then p plus 4 is equal to 2p plus 1 plus 2p minus 4. And p plus 4 is equal to 4p minus 3. Then if I move my p over and subtract p, and I move my 3 over and add 3, I get 7 equals 3p. So p would equal 7/3. Is 7/3 an okay answer to have? Yes, what could p not be? 2 and -4. Last question really quickly is, let's see if I can go back one. I can't find one that I like, but just if I'm asking, what if you have a denominator of 2x minus 1? What could x not be? Positive 1/2. Do you understand why? Because we don't want the denominator to be 0. Well, if I set this equal to 0, what would happen? Hold on. You move the -1 over, it becomes positive, then you would divide by 2.